Welcome, one and all, to the show. Wired up, fired up, and ready to go. Episode 37 of BlueTruth New York Rangers Talk with Brian Attard, powered by the Sportsbox Network. Like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For those who are watching tonight live, for watching it live, if you're watching the YouTube replay, thank you for that as well. Be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Maybe you'll catch you on one of the live streams one of these nights. Tonight is November the 1st, 2023. Got a big show tonight. Patrick Hoffman, blogger with Inside The Rink, will be on later in the show. Great Rangers fan from a great family of Rangers fans, personal friend of yours truly. So looking forward to hearing his perspective on things and where we are. But I would be remiss, though, if we didn't start the show acknowledging a couple, sad stories in the world. Obviously, I acknowledge the tragic passing of Adam Johnson, passing away at just 29 years of age. Just a freak accident playing hockey in England. I'm sure you've all, the story by now. You've seen the video. I'm obviously not going to show the video. An opposing player flipped up and the skate blade caught Johnson in the neck. Unfortunately, didn't survive it. Rest in peace to him. Thoughts with the family, who were clearly devastated, and his teammates, fans, just the hockey community at large. These injuries, they do happen from time to time. They are rare, but they do happen. We may remember longtime Buffalo Sabres goaltender Clint Malarchuk took a skate blade, just bled out onto the ice. He survived it. It's just really sad, really unfortunate. We'll see if this will lead to equipment changes in the pro game. I think that if that's a direction they want to go, you start mandating it at the youth level and junior level, and then players become accustomed to it, and they don't get mandated so far at the pro level, but as people grow up and grow into the NHL level, then they're wearing them, similar to, visors and things of that nature. You may remember players obviously were grandfathered in. They didn't want to wear helmets. Craig McTavish, who won the final faceoff in 94 with 1.6 seconds left in Game 7, he was the last player not to wear a helmet. So, there's ways to start getting players to. I don't think you can mandate it, though. I think if you've been playing your entire life a certain way, it's very difficult to start playing with new gear. So make it optional. Maybe players kind of pressure each other into it, but I think if you start working with the kids and the younger players, you'll get some traction there. Dimitri Yanowski, let's go Rangers. Welcome, Brian. Welcome, Dimitri. Joe, I was reading your next comment. I was reading that. Welcome. Thank you. It is an off situation, Tom, for sure. Tom Scavetta from our friends at Review and Preview, rest in peace. He's down in Palm Coast, Florida, which is better than being in Southern New Jersey today. That I can tell you for a fact. So yes, very, very sad news for Adam Johnson, but also Rangers related. Want to just rest in peace to Matthew Perry. He was most famously known for his role as Chandler Bing on the show Friends. He was a Ranger fan. There's that last picture I want to talk about. I took this on March 31st, 2017, when I was at the game against the Penguins, and they showed Matthew on Garden Vision. My wife, Mary Susan's just a huge fan of the show. And so I made sure to, snap a picture of Chandler on the big screen for her. Another really just sad bit of news, passing away at age 54. Rest in peace to Matthew Perry, and he was a Ranger fan, so just wanted to just talk about that. But let's change gears. Let's a little bit more uplifting, right? So, as we know, a much more uplifting story. The New York Rangers are 9 games in the 2023-2024 campaign, and although it's just 9 games, they find themselves sitting at a robust 7-2 on the year, coming off a 5-game sweep of a Western road trip. That is a perfect 10 points. You can't do any better than that. The New York Rangers have been a professional hockey team, by definition, since 1926. And in those 97 years, they have never have they ever had a perfect road trip of 5 games or more until now. They are off to a truly stellar start to the regular season. You can't ask for much more than 7 wins in 9 games. And you know who's probably the most surprised by that? This guy, me. As loyal viewers of BlueTruth know, I was not one of these, oh my God, they're not winning preseason games, they suck, they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not one of those people, not in the least. Preseason doesn't matter. You can make the case regular season doesn't matter, but preseason definitely doesn't matter. As a rational human, as much as we can be, when it comes to this team that we hold so dear to our hearts, I certainly thought that there would be some growing pains early on in the season as a new head coach was taking over behind the bench with a new staff and, installing actual systems for players who had not played within systems for the better part of a couple of years. I was fully mentally prepared for them to get off to a slow start. I felt that the recipe was there. You have 7 of your first 9 games on the road with systems and everything else. In my mind, I was preparing for, a 3-6 start, something to that effect. But lo and behold, they come out of the gate up and down the first 4 games, win, loss, win, loss. And then they go on this trip and everything just really comes together. And you think to, who were the players who everyone bashed the most in the preseason? The 3 names that I saw the most angst in regards to were Artemi Panarin, Alexis Lafreniere, and Jonathan Quick. Let's start with Panarin, who people were all over all summer long after the performance he had against the Devils in the playoffs. Through the first 9 games, Panarin has 15 points, at least a point in every single game to start the year. By any definition you would like to take, he is on absolute fire. His best start to a season as a Ranger, including the first year where he had a really, really good year, playing with just a ton of confidence to the point where you see Laviolette double shifting him and upping that ice time as a reward for his strong play. Lafreniere, lots of critics, of course. Who scored the first goal of the season in Buffalo? That was him. And he kicked off the road trip with a goal in each of the first 3 games. He's been noticeable even when he's not scoring. He's making plays, the kind of plays that you would expect a first overall pick should be making. And again, playing with a ton of confidence because he's been given a role and hasn't been taken away from him. The play against Edmonton, just skating through people, like that's what you expect from somebody with his talent profile. You're starting to see it. Do you remember when people thought that Jonathan Quick wasn't going to make the team out of camp? He's played just over 2 games. He played about half the game or so in that clunker against Nashville and then the full games in Seattle and Edmonton. And through those two and a half games or so, he's allowed just 1 goal. And frankly, that was a weird goal, which you can kind of attribute to the fact that the lights weren't working in Seattle. Listen, he's been fantastic, albeit in limited time. Everything. Look, those 3 players were the big names that everybody was just all over. And they've been playing very well to start the year. You look at some of the guys with slower starts, Zibanejad, Capo Kakko. I think that you're going to see those numbers peak up. I think the points are going to come for Kakko when Mika starts scoring more frequently, frankly, not on the power play, but at 5-on-5. Kakko's been getting the puck to him. He's been finding him, but Mika has not been consistently scoring. So, it seems that he might be coming out of that. So Kakko's points should be coming too with that. Comments coming in. Tom O'Neill. Last time the Rangers went 1-5 in the preseason, they went to the finals that year. Well, I mean, there you go. So it was all planned. They did it on purpose. Again, we sat here in the preview of the season, and there was so much just ridiculousness going on about, oh my God, they're not winning preseason games. Like anybody really cares. They don't care about preseason games. Tom Sanderson, Peter Laviolette, a lot of early success everywhere he's been. So weird. Well, I guess that's what systems can do for you when you install them. Only player better than Panarin is Vetrano right now. Yeah, but remember, Vetrano's in Anaheim where there's not a lot of good players. He would not be on the top line here. Good for him. I have nothing against Frank Vetrano. I think he gets a little overrated as a skill player. Nice player, but not really. I think a middle 6 guy on a good team, and probably a third liner, to be fair. Joe Garcia, I'm not concerned with regular season Panarin. Let's see what he does to come playoffs. Hopefully, it's not a part deuce of last year. For Quick, after Halak's start last year, I learned to be patient before freaking out. No, and that's true. Halak got off to a horrific start. So from that standpoint, you have to be happy that we're not talking about the bad start for the backup goaltender. We were talking 3 weeks ago about the idea, could Igor play 65 games because Quick didn't look that great to start the year. Again, I feel as though that'll balance itself out. I mean, he's played again. Is it Benny? Is it coaching? I don't care. Whatever's going to work is going to work. But he played really, really well. And I think that it's possible that a lot of the angst that we saw in preseason was the fact, frankly, that it wasn't full rosters in games that didn't matter. People freak out about that stuff. John, what's up, sir? How are you? Bob, Kako needs some power play time. I think that whole second unit needs a little bit more time. Again, the first unit's been on fire. We'll get to that. So I don't think that that's necessarily like a, Gallant part 2 with the leaving the first unit on for so long. I think it's actually just working right now. So you kind of let that go. Kind of take the hot streak and the strong PK and be happy. There's my buddy Carl. If Mika can improve his accuracy, he'll be absolutely lethal. He's got to get that one-timer back on for sure. That'll come. It'll come. I have no doubt in my mind about that. Mario Concilio, I know it's early in the year, but so far I feel like we are well coached. And you know what? Mario, I agree with you because for the most part, everything is coming up Rangers right now. Why? The coaching change, as we said all summer long, has been stellar, and that would be the case. People were upset that Gerard Gallant was fired after 200-point seasons. Like that was his doing and not, Igor Shesterkin being Igor Shesterkin. Oh, by the way, a lot of 3-point games. They commented that they wanted a fresh face and not a quote-unquote retread behind the bench, all sorts of things. How can anyone right now with real boldface tell you that that's been a bad move? I can't see it. Now, small sample size, no question. I get that. Like, I'm not giving Peter Laviolette the Jack Adams Award. It's just that it is the 1st of November. But you start talking about night and day with this team, through the first 7 games, including the 2 against Vancouver and Winnipeg, the Rangers, excluding those 2, the Rangers defense has been, I'll put that back up. The Rangers defense has been stellar. They ranked 1st in the league in shots allowed, 24.9 a game, 9.7 against shots in the slot, 1st in the league, and 2nd in the league with less than 2 goals a game. And that includes the clunker they had against Nashville. So yeah, it's early. We're just like 10% through the season, but you have to be encouraged by those numbers. And then you look specifically more at the road trip. The Rangers doing well really in every phase. They're scoring close to 3.5 goals a game. They're allowing less than 1.5 goals a game. Power play a 40% clip. The PK 95%. They're doing good things in all 3 phases. They are scoring. They're defending better when I've seen them defend in years. And they're getting the goaltending, not just from Igor, but from Quick as well. For a team that, for the better part of a couple years, and it goes back to even David Quinn time. It's not. I don't want to just pile on Gallant, although it's easy. They played a rather chaotic defensive system or game. It wasn't really a system. There's a lot more structure now. The key word there. I don't know if PJ Gregoretti is watching. That's like his word. Structure. And that's going to be there he is. He just popped on. I mentioned the secret word, which was structure. And I know that'll get you excited. That is going to be the theme for a lot of the year. I think, and we all, if you look back, the team had the pieces last year and they just didn't have a direction. They have it now, and it's wonderful to see. And that was the biggest thing we talked about coming into this year, were people that were holding that anger from last year. And they looked at this roster and saw it to be essentially the same group, minus the big name deadline acquisitions, and they wrote them off as a worse version of the team that blew it against New Jersey last year. It's certainly early. I'm not, let's not, plan the parade, but how can you not be impressed by the structure the team is playing with? It's certainly not going to be perfect all the time, but a lot of people just completely disregarded the impact of a wholly new coaching staff and what that impact would be on this roster with the veteran and youth mix. Like, if you really think about it, the 2 games that they've lost, the Columbus game was just a weird game. The Rangers played relatively well in that game. They had a couple disallowed goals, which really kind of screwed with the flow. The goal that Hedl scored that got taken off the board was tremendous. Someone was a half inch offside, so that got called back. And that rule just drives me nuts. Like, there's got to be like a look back period or something. Like, if it's within 10 seconds, I don't know, but they got to fix something, because I think it's screwing a little bit with the flow of games. But anyway, outside of the Nashville game, you really can't point to a game that they weren't in it. The whole game. And games like that Nashville game are going to happen from time to time. It really is okay. I remember some of the anger I saw after that Nashville game, which feels like forever ago, to be honest. But I remember reading comments with a lot of that rollover anger that I've been talking about within the base. The idea that, people aren't necessarily angry with this team and this season, but that they just haven't gotten over the ending last year, and they're holding it in, they're letting it out now. I remember trying to calm people down after that game and saying, look, it's just October. It's just an early season game. The sky is not falling. And I got some responses that they expect the players to be giving it their all in every game all year, do or die. And I just took a second to think about that and just the thought process behind it. And I thought to myself how insane of a response that was. The NHL season is 82 games long, and in the grand scheme of things, the games don't really matter in the sense that you just need to be in the top half of your conference to get into the playoffs and have an opportunity. Remember, the Panthers were the 8th seed in the East last year, and they took down a 65-win Boston team on their way to a finals appearance. You just have to get in. But back to my point, I think that people are kind of nuts to expect the Rangers or any hockey team to maintain this playoff intensity level play through the entirety of a very long season. I don't think you should want them to do that anyway. They'd burn themselves out. Just would. They're human too. The same way we as fans should not get too up and down over these individual games in the regular season, I don't think the players should either. It is a marathon and not a sprint. And if you're sprinting in October and November, you are going to be well out of gas before the games really matter in April and hopefully May and more hopefully June. It's the same idea that those people who came into the season and they had their anger dialed up to a hard 9 on a scale of 10 on that anger scale before the team even hit the ice, it's hard to maintain that level. Like, where do you go if you're already at a 9 in late September? Where do you go with that? When invariably, look, we're not going to have 5 winning streaks the entirety of the year. You're going to lose 3 or 4 in a row, and you're going to lose your mind, and you're already angry walking in. Like, where do you go with that? It's just not. It's not realistic to expect balls to the wall, 82 games, start to finish, like go out and kill yourself. It doesn't work. And you can't do it. You can't maintain that level. So, people are going to expect that. I think they should buy a clue, frankly. But it's just, to me, it's whatever. A couple more comments. When I get to a couple more comments here. Kana Laviolette was already better than Gallant. Look, a lot of people were like, oh, it's just going to be the same shit. I didn't think so. He's dragged teams higher everywhere he's been. So I wasn't really, worried about that. Robert Simpson, these guys look structurally sound. It was needed. It needs to stay. I feel like Pee Wee Herman. You said the secret word. The structure is like the secret word. Tyler Boyd, Wheeler is a tough watch right now. That's factual. We'll see where that goes. That he's got to find some rhythm, because I think that is a concern. If you're going to be concerned about anything, for sure. Charlie Troy, finding ways to win 2 games versus the past 2 seasons, we are finding a way to lose. No, that's true. We're not the Islanders and the Penguins finding ways to lose games on home ice that we're winning by 2 goals in the third period. So it's nice to see that. John, I've seen more games in the short start with this system that the team was not only dominant, but decided to win. Last year was too many nail biters. That's true. They're not at 5-on-5. You can look for them to do more. I think they're focused so much on the defensive system that maybe it's at the expense of some offensive, but power plays on fire. It's a beast. It's fine. They're finding ways to win games. It's just November 1st. There's my buddy Mark Brown. Gallant would have had Benito and VC in the top 6 after the Nashville game. So true. I don't miss him. I don't. Again, I've been piling on him all summer long. That's probably not going to change, but yeah. Bob, I didn't like the 1-3-1, but is doing a ton for the defensive game and not sacrificing offense. I did see some comments from yours, Bob, that you really weren't a fan of that, and that's okay. Everybody's got their own opinion. I do think that it's going to help. And there's my buddy Kurt, power plays carrying the team. Let's see. Tom Sanderson, bottom 6 filled with guys who'd be in our top 6 last year. Not bad depth. Rock from 2 Guys 1 Cup, which if you're not watching, you're doing a disservice to yourself. Find them on Facebook. They're wonderful. Haven't been anybody really great yet. Tomorrow was a test. We are going to talk about that. Columbus game was still awful. Yes, I know. The cannon. Yes, I know. But that's okay. They could have actually won that game. It's just a lot of just crap went on. I think the conditioning this is better compared to last. I would agree. And Kurt was just an excellent point. Why are people so horny to have Hoffman come up and play 6 minutes a game? Yes, for the same people that want to just kill Kakko and Lafreniere for not being superstars, want Brendan Hoffman to come up having played very little pro hockey, but he's going to be a godsend. I think that things are fine. It's going to be okay. There's going to be openings on this team at wing next year. I think Hoffman slides right in. Let Hoffman bake in Hartford. Yes, Joe, I could not agree more. So we're watching this team. We are obviously, I think we're happy with what we've seen to this point. As Rock mentioned, they do have Carolina coming into the Garden tomorrow night, Thursday night, if you're watching this late. That's their first game back after a long road trip. So historically, that is a tough game to get your legs back at home. Carolina is as quality an opponent as they've had this season. They're currently the favorite to win the whole shebang. And, they've been in that discussion now for a few years. Not that they have anything to show for it. It'll be interesting to see how the Rangers play in that spot. I would encourage people going into that game to not overreact to a bad game, which you're going to do anyway. But I would encourage you, given the circumstances, not to overreact to a bad game against Carolina. But we know the reaction will be what it will be. So it is what it is. The story that is starting to gain some traction is the potential Broadway return of Patrick Kane, currently rehabbing his hip after surgery this offseason. Kane will turn 35 on November 19th. The odds are if he does sign a deal, he'd probably sign it through the remainder of this season, prove to the world, presumably, that he's healthy again, and then try to cash in for a longer deal in the offseason. He is also going to want to go to a team with a chance to win. You would have to assume that if Kane is considering the Rangers, which reports seem to indicate is the case, the 7-2 start that is something that would catch his eye. I surely don't think the Rangers have done anything to dissuade him from wanting to come back. Assuming he does want to give it another go with the Rangers, the two questions are where he would fit in the lineup and how much it would cost them financially. We'll talk money first. If it's money he wants this season specifically, the Rangers are certain to be outbid by his hometown Sabres or possibly the rival Carolina Hurricanes. Both of them are concerns to different degrees. Buffalo's got just a ton of cap space. The only team in the league with more is Chicago, which he's not going back there. Buffalo also off to a 4-5 start, so they're dead last in the Atlantic Division. It's early, yes, but if he's looking for a contender, I think Buffalo's a hard sell, especially in that division with how top-heavy it is. Carolina might be interesting to him in that it's a team that is the odds-on favorite to win the Stanley Cup, and that's obviously attractive if you're trying to win a ring, but they're generally also a very cheap team when it comes to contracts. They're an excellent team, no question. I mean, in my opinion, they are the threat in the Metro to the Rangers, not the Devils. I think it's Carolina. Their right wings, though, are pretty solid as it is. I don't know if there's a roster fit there. Cap-wise, as of today, the Rangers have just under $700,000 in space, which is actually, you'll be surprised to know this, the 13th most in the league. Almost half the league is in the LTIR and over the cap. This hard cap is just brutal, but teams are finding ways. That's just the reality of it. If you assume that if you're going to bring Patrick Kane in, that you would move a player off of your roster, figure that opens up like $800K. Let's assume it's like Tyler Pitlick. So you're looking like 1.5 if you're stretching it. Is it a lot? No. But if you're Patrick Kane, do you really need to ring the register for the rest of this season? Probably not. The Rangers could also, if they really want to, create some more cap space by trading Zach Jones, which is also an option. The point is, financially, I think you'd all be surprised how doable it actually is. When I ran the numbers, I'm like, well, it actually, if you want it to work, it could work. I think the harder question is, theoretically, where would he fit in on the roster? At the moment, the right wings in hierarchy of order are Kakko, Lafreniere, Wheeler, and then whoever's playing between Jimmy Vesey and Tyler Pitlick. The way that the second line has looked to start the year, like, do you really want to break that up? Probably not. I wouldn't. So assuming safely that Patrick Kane is not coming to play on the fourth line, we have two spots, and that's Kakko's on line 1 and Wheeler's on line 3. Kakko has not been lighting the world on fire on the top line. It is his natural fit, though. Wheeler has also not been lighting the world on fire on the third line. No points and a -4 in 9 games. What Wheeler does have, unfortunately, is a full no-trade clause. So it's not like the Rangers can just ship him off somewhere, and he negotiated that. Good for its 1-year deal. If you assume, like I do, that Lafreniere is staying on line 2 on the right side, then what I think the most likely scenario would be, potentially, is Patrick Kane takes line 1 with Zibby and Kreider, and then Kakko drops to line 3, and then Wheeler would drop to the fourth line, and then you figure it out after that. They probably move on from Pitlick just for space. You're not really playing him anyway. If you would be willing to break up line 2, put Lafreniere back on third line left wing, because then you can put Cooley back in Hartford without going through waivers, because he's exempt from that, so there's no issues there. Then you can possibly put Kane back on the second line opposite Panarin with Hito in the middle. Those are the two scenarios that I guess I think are the most likely for a positional fit. We'll see how it plays out. You got to let it play out. I think at the end of the day, it's probably up to Patrick Kane. If he wants to come back and he's willing to take the money that the Rangers can give him, I think that the Rangers find a way to make it work. It wouldn't be overly painful to do it, but you have to understand that this would be your move then. Like, this would be your deadline acquisition, quote unquote. Like, that's what your final piece is. Because at that point, you're really out of ammunition without trading a player off of the roster, which is hard to do. The one guy that you would probably love to move from is Barclay Goodrow, from an obvious financial point of view. That is an ugly contract. It's always been an ugly contract. It was always going to be an ugly contract. But you would probably have to bribe someone to take him, and that bribe might be cost prohibitive. Oh, and by the way, he has a 15-team no trade. So he's going to dictate where he can go. I think you're kind of stuck in that until you do potentially a buyout at some point. I don't think there's any really way around that one. I can make the case, arguably, that he's the 6th highest paid forward on the team, and that's the worst deal on the team. Not Panarin, not Trouba, the guys who you normally hear are these really bad contracts. To me, it's actually Goodrow's got the worst deal of all. So that would be something to monitor for sure. However, at the end of the day, my gut feels like there's a decent shot for a reunion here, but if it doesn't happen, and ironically enough, BlueTruth said this was going to be a possibility the moment that this player signed in Ottawa. But if everything going on there and a new GM change, could Vladimir Tarasenko be in Manhattan by the deadline? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, because everything looks like it's going to hell in a handbasket in Ottawa. They're getting fine first-round picks. They're betting on games and getting suspended like it's becoming the circus. So if Vlad doesn't want to be there, again, Vlad, he has the no-trade clause. If I want to go back to New York, they can make that happen. So can they both come back? No. Roster-wise, financially, psychologically, you can't bring back the same team as last year. You can't do it. So one might, both won't. I think there's a decent shot for either of them, but definitely not the two of them. Comments coming in. Let's see. I got to scroll up a little bit. PJ, Crane has to take Wheeler's spot in the third line. You can't take ice time away from Laf and Kakko. Well, you can if you're going to keep even distributions between the first and third lines. You can still do that. It's like last year. It's kind of ironic when you look back on it now, but they had more of a top 9 than a top 6, and I think we get this like mindset. Oh, top 6. I get it, but their third line last year was an extremely talented third line that worked really well together. So I think with this roster, because of the depth, it's a top 9 and a fourth line. Like it's not a top 6 bottom 6 thing. I think it's a top 9 bottom 3. So could Kane play third line? Yeah, he did at points last year because Gallant's a moron, but that doesn't mean that he wouldn't fit in better with more talented people. I think Kakko can play that Trocheck Cooley game more than Kane would be able to. I think Kane's better with more skilled players. That's just where I would see there. John, biggest surprise so far is Gustafsson. He's been great. I mean, and as advertised, because he's a good player for Lavi in Washington. It's a reason that they brought him back. Joe says things Jones getting traded whether or not Kane returns. I mean, listen, if they're going to have any space at the deadline, they're going to need to create some space. Like, again, if he's not going to play, you have to get something. I don't think that's why he's on the roster, because if he goes down through waivers, he's going to get picked up by somebody else. It's not always doable, but in this case, I think that it is. Mark, he plays third right wing, Wheeler to fourth, VC 13th forward, Pitlick wave. That's an as plausible scenario as there is. But I do think you could see Kane and Kakko flop in that scenario, or flip in that scenario. Boss says Kane's a no for me. Circus would happen again where he's going, the fit and how long that would take. It's a bad move. This is my buddy Josh. What's up, brother? How are you? Joe, love Goody, hate the contract. Well, they're married at the hip. So is he a $3.6 million player? No. Was he ever going to be? Probably not, but that's the deal that you signed him to. Kurt says, anybody heard of a Kane health update lately? In summer, they're expecting on a Christmas return. They keep saying like November 1 was like this line in the sand we would start talking to people. Maybe. I don't really know. Tom says, I think the contract signing date would also play into his dollar amount. You're correct. The engineering is needed later. Correct. The more you have open cap space, the more it accumulates, the more you can spend later in the year. So you're 110% right on that. Trouba's deal looks good now. Well, I wouldn't say that, but it doesn't. Kurt, if the cap had gone up normally, we're not concerned about Jacob Trouba's contract. We're just not. But it didn't, so we are. Savvy says no to Kane. I liked him here, but in all honesty, you can't say anything until January, February. See the team is playing. Kana said he would take Tarasenko back over Kane. So, listen, we'll keep an eye out on that. Quick before I want to get to Patrick, I want to get to the guest, but I want to just talk real quick about the alternate jersey that was notably leaked. It looks real to me, and it looks like it's a marriage of the 78 throwbacks with the full logo on the front and the navy coloring of both the Liberty from 97 and the 2020 reverse retro. I have all of these jerseys because I'm a moron. I had thought originally that this would be like a Stadium Series jersey. It sounds like, again, all of this is pure speculation, that it's just an alternate, that it's not the Stadium Series, that there's actually another jersey they're going to wear in the Stadium Series. I posted these pictures to BlueTruth's webpage, to this Facebook page. Reaction was mixed, to say the least. I'm back and forth on them. I don't really like the sleeve striping. I'll say that was my first inclination. I don't love the full logo. I don't hate the full logo. I do have both the 78 throwbacks. I just got another one recently. I'm fine with it. I think I'm going to reserve judgment until I look at this thing with my own two eyes in front of me. I need to see it. It's the way that I am. Okay. I'm a jersey snob, if you want to call me that. Like, I don't buy the fake stuff. Everything's got to be legit. Like, I get it lettered in Canada. Like, it's just me. So I gotta like lay eyes on this thing to really give it a grade, so to speak. I'm curious though what they do if this is in fact not the Stadium Series jersey. Like, if there's another one coming to release 2 in a year, I mean, look, they want to print money, right? I understand. The Rangers do one thing very well, and that's make money. So maybe they do that. Maybe there's another jersey we don't really know about. Comment coming in, that jersey is garbage. PJ not a fan. Tom not a fan. PJ again. I agree. I'm not a fan of the striping. Richter didn't like playing with the Liberty logo. I dislike the stripes. The jersey's not a moneymaker. This guy's just lost. I don't know if Devils fans do podcasts because only one of you would do it and the other 12 would watch it. And if you can't do it all at the same time, it's a problem. Whatever. Team stinks. Need more speed to keep up with the speedy Devils. Yes and no. You can play fast, and they're showing you that. So let's pause a little bit on the speed thing. I think that gets a touch overrated. The Devils also have a goaltending problem they have not fixed. So things will be okay. Anyway, as I mentioned earlier on, we have a very special guest joining the show tonight. He's currently a blogger for Inside The Rink. He has written for all sorts of blogs around the internet. You've probably read something of his, not even known it. We feature some of his Rangers content through the BlueTruth page. He is a great Rangers fan from a great family of Rangers fans. I am very happy to have Patrick Hoffman on the show, and as soon as I can get my technology to work, I'm going to make it work. There's 1 second. Hold on. I got to fix this background. That's what I do. Where am I? All right, there we go. All right. Patrick, welcome into BlueTruth. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you? Glad to be here.
I am just living the dream, brother. I am just living the dream. Team 7-2. I did not expect that whatsoever. So I'm sitting pretty there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of us expected that. If we're, since we're both realistic Ranger fans, I would have been happy at 4-5 or 5-4. But I didn't expect 7-2 to be where we're at right now. But I'm more than happy with it. I mean, I have, I can't really complain about anything.
That's the scary part.
Yeah. Other Ranger fans will complain, though, as we see. But I can't find anything to complain about.
Sometimes when there's nothing to worry about, there's something to worry about. Robert Thomas doesn't know that we have 31 people watching the show live because he can't read as a Devils fan. Doesn't know that the page has 6,000 followers and the main page has 25,000 followers, and the Devils have 13 fans. I think he's lost. Nice picture. Anyway, we love the trolls here on the BlueTruth. Talk a little bit about your blog work. I know that you've been doing this for quite a while, and I know that you've done it for a lot of different outlets, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've been blogging online since 2004, the 2004-2005 season, which was, the lockout. So I was writing about hockey when there was no hockey being played. I was blogging for a site called Specters Hockey, which is run by Lyle Richardson. I have my own column there called, I don't know if it was like Hoffman's Net or Hoffman's Goal, something like that. And I did that for a couple years. Then I did some prospect coverage for McKean's Hockey. Then I went over to hockeybuzz.com. Then I was the first Rangers blogger for the hockeynews.com. And then I spent 5 years over at Kukla's Corner. I wrote for close to 2 years for Rogers Sportsnet. I was an intern for Stan Fischler for 3 summers. I've been everywhere.
That's so cool. I mean, you definitely obviously have a passion for it. I think we both know this commenter here saying 2 of my favorite Rangers fans chatting.
Yeah.
Love you, Eileen. I mean, obviously, look, you clearly, it's funny you mentioned the lockout. So I was actually telling the story recently. I started dating my wife at the time. It was May of 2004. So she didn't really know about the illness until she was a year and a half in.
Yeah, you got to hide it. Yeah.
So she was committed. So she didn't really have a choice at that point. She was already in. So she didn't really realize how big of a Rangers fan I really was. I mean, she knew, but she didn't really know.
Well, I mean, it must have been nice because, when she came into it, they were a winning team.
Yeah.
They were great after the lockout.
She always thought Henrik was the cutest thing. That was a good selling point for me and trying to get her along was the good looking goaltender. A lot of passion, obviously, you have for the sport. How did you get into hockey originally?
It was my dad who got me into it. There was a picture of me sitting on his lap, watching a Ranger Flyer playoff game back in '83. And the guy that first scored saw a Ranger goal scored by was Mike Backman, who actually turned out to be my first hockey coach.
Oh, wow.
Small world. And he is also the father-in-law of Jonathan Quick and Matt Molson.
How about that?
And then, I grew up going to Ranger games with him. He did a lot of work for, Colin Campbell. He did work for Mark Messier. He did work for Mike Richter. He did work for Wayne Cashman. So I got to do a lot of cool things because of that. I'd say the best one was I took a road trip with the Rangers to Montreal in 1995. I met Mike Richter at JFK in like a duty-free shop. And he taught me how to stop a penalty shot using candy bars. And I always tell that story. I mean, it's my favorite player story. And then I took a mini road trip with Team Canada in the World Cup in 1996, and I was at a table for breakfast with Paul Coffey, Scott Niedermayer, and Adam Graves. And, Paul Coffey asked me, so who are you rooting for tonight? And it was just an exhibition game between Team USA and Team Canada. I didn't know what I was going to say. And Adam Graves is like, you just say you're rooting for Team USA. You're an American. That's who you should be rooting for. You should not be rooting for us. I was lucky that I got to see a lot of behind the scenes stuff because of my dad.
That's cool. Yeah, I know. And that just obviously, I've met your dad. Obviously, unfortunately, he passed away early on from COVID. Every time I go to the Garden, I remember him. I remember him yelling at somebody like 6 rows down.
Sit down. Yep. Down in front. Yep.
Your mother's starting to do a little bit of that, or like at least she's thinking about it. I think if she's there with some like physical backup, she'd be okay doing it. So she doesn't get.
Yeah, she would need somebody a little bit bigger than me.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Yeah, there she is. Yep. That's. Phil was the man. I miss him. I miss him. Let's talk about our favorite topic, and that's our New York Rangers. So we both love that.
Yes.
Where were you coming in on the coaching hire? Where was Laviolette your guy? Was he not your guy? What was your thoughts on that whole scenario?
I liked him because he had a winning pedigree. Here's a guy who had won a cup with the Hurricanes. He took the Flyers to a Stanley Cup final. He took the Predators to a Stanley Cup final, and both the Predators and the Flyers, they had no business being there. The Hurricanes were a more talented team that he took, but there's just a guy who knew how to win. He knew how to get the players' attention and keep them accountable. I think with Gallant, the team came more of a country club. Players were able to get away with a lot. It's okay to let the players run the show every once in a while, but as a coach, you also need to step up and handle business. And I think Laviolette's a lot better than Gallant. And like you said, there's a reason why Gallant only lasts a certain number of years with teams. He's got a very short shelf life.
It's like we've seen this movie before, and then we're all surprised when it plays out exactly the same as it played out elsewhere. I think that you talked about it. It's not a coincidence that the veterans played better with the veterans and the kids played better with the kids, because there was no bridging of the gap there was no coaching saying, okay, we're going to do this. Whereas the veterans are on the same page most of the time. The kids are kind of on the same page. It was almost like when Kakko and Laffy would play with a Panarin or with a Mika, like they would almost defer to them because they didn't know better. Like, I guess that's what we're supposed to do. And if you're not told differently, you kind of go with what your instinct is.
I think one thing that I've loved about Laviolette is that he keeps the lines together. Now, there's done so much. I mean, I understand you got to change them up every once in a while, but I mean, right now things are going well. He hasn't changed the thing. He hasn't had to. And for the younger guys, it's good for them to establish some consistency. And right now, it's working. It makes sense. Yeah, Kakko's not producing, but I think it's going to come with time. He doesn't look out of place on that line. Mm-hmm. He certainly looks like he belongs there, and he wins a lot of puck battles. I think the points will come for him. Laffy, I kind of gave him a hard time in the preseason. He was disappointing in the playoffs last year, but so were a lot of other players. But I like the way that he's kind of stepped up and showed that, he can play. Again, it's all about consistencies for these young guys. And Laviolette's, showing like, I'm going to give you more ice time. You got to earn it. But maybe with more ice time, you'll be able to do something. And if you have the same line mates, it'll be better for you. I don't think Gallant really ever thought that way. I think he just, some of the lines you'd see Gallant put together, you think, where are you coming up with this? These lines do not make any sense.
Yeah.
and he'd have those lines together for a few games. Like, it didn't work the first 3 games, so why are you going to put them together for a 4?
He had one of those like bingo ball things in his office.
Yeah.
We're gonna, hey, this guy's gonna play third line wing today. Where are you currently on the ongoing debate in Rangerland on Lafreniere and Kakko with the bust term? I tend to be preaching patience. I think too many people have equated the NHL draft with the NFL draft, where players come in and play right away and they're productive and they're doing this, they're doing that. And most of the time in the NHL, you're drafting 17, 18, 19-year-olds that maybe aren't developmentally ready yet, but the high picks tend to play right away.
Yeah, you know what? I've kind of come around. Originally I was thinking bust, but you know what? I think you really need to, these guys are still so young. You really need to preach. You really do need to preach patience, because the last thing you want to do is you want to give them up and then have them go succeed somewhere else. And then of course, Ranger fans be like, oh, you see this, we should have kept them. Or then you'd be like, no, you were saying just a week ago that they shouldn't be on the team, that we should trade them. You need to be, as patient as you can. I mean, you need to extend the leash a little bit. I wouldn't extend it too much more. But I'm willing to be, more patient with them as long as they continue to show progress in their games. Start putting up, a bit more numbers, and then that's all I'm asking for.
My favorite comment was somebody said, "Oh, I thought they should have taken Tim Stützle over Lafreniere." I'm like, can you show me a screenshot of you saying that any time before the draft? No? Okay, then you're full of it. Because everybody in the world, that's what people seem to forget, is both of if either or both of them do become a bust, that is not the Rangers made the wrong pick. Everybody in the world had them going where they were going.
That's the Central Scouting Bureau being wrong on their judgment.
It's happened before, and it'll happen again, right? The Nail Yakupovs and everybody else. You do have things that happen at the top of the draft, but in Lafreniere's case, I mean, people are surprised at Lafreniere. He was on the lottery show. He was the guy for 2 years leading into his draft, and then people are like, oh, they should have taken the other guy. That's what I think. Yeah, because you watch junior hockey and have an educated opinion on the matter, right? So it's people just want to be mad. I think they just
the draft. It really is kind of a crapshoot. Even if you're a high pick, it's anything can happen with them. You look at, like you said, now Yakupov, look at Alexander Daig, look at Patrick Stefan.
Sure.
All these high draft picks who were supposed to be unbelievable and change their franchises. Well, they did absolutely none of that, and they are all out of the league.
And for me, honestly, the part that I always go back to, people are like, oh, you lost your voice over Lafreniere. Lafreniere stinks. I'm like, no, I lost my voice because the Rangers couldn't screw the pick up. Yeah. Because historically, they're very good at that. Whether it's Pavel Brendel or
Pavel Brendel,
I mean, like you can Hugh Jessamine, like you can sit there and cry over all of just the whiffs this team has had. That when that decision is taken away, Dylan McIlrath, when that decision's taken away from them, and they can't input, and Elias Anderson, like they can't screw it up. If everyone screwed it up, I'm actually okay with that. At least it wasn't our people screwing it up.
No, and I don't think it wasn't the Rangers people screwing up. It was, they did their due diligence. Everybody gets the Central Scoutings. They get all their rankings. If I'm the GM and president of hockey operations, I'm probably taking Lafreniere as well.
Yeah,
without a doubt, I'm taking him.
If it wasn't him, it would have been Quentin Byfield, who, because you needed a center, and he's playing left wing for LA now. So it's just
there's so many things that change. Like I said, it's a crap. You really don't know.
You don't know, but I think also it's always revisionist history. Oh, that guy's better. We should have taken him. Yeah, thanks. We appreciate that. But I always go back to David Quinn, because David Quinn was on a podcast called Cam and Strick, which is really, really good stuff. And he said something along the lines of, these guys are going to be good players, but usually when you get drafted 1-2, you go to bad teams and you play top 6 in power play because you're the only show in town. And when you're the Rangers and you have the roster that they had, which is not traditionally where these top picks go, what are you going to, you have a team to be accountable to. Like, you can't just give the kids a second line spot because they're a first, second pick in the draft. Like, you have a team of Mika and Kreider and Panarin and like veteran guys that are there to try to win.
And let's face it, when you come to New York, you are expected to win.
Yeah.
It's not the most, the Rangers really haven't heard of the term, like, well, maybe they haven't, like rebuild. I mean, they sent out that letter in 2018. And then like the 2019-20, when COVID happened, we were a pretty good team that year. Had COVID not happened right then, I would have liked to have seen what would have gone on, had we not had to play in the bubble. And we could have, finished out the season, the way a normal season goes. I would have liked to see what we would have been able to accomplish.
I have a video of the letter. I'm just playing it now. It's so true. Like, when you go back and you read this, it's funny because like we talked about it. Rangers fans were in on it. Like, they didn't care. Like, we took it in stride. We're like, we're finally going to get this rebuild that we never really had. That they're going to stop trying to patch holes with overpriced free agents and bad deals. And it really, I don't know about you. I always say that 2015 hurt more than 2014 because 2014, they kind of came out of nowhere.
Yep.
And then 2015, they got expectations. They didn't even get there. And that was like when the music died a little bit because they never were the same team after that. And it took them 2 years to kind of admit it. And then they went.
Yeah, I mean, you look at 2015, they were the best team in the league.
Yeah.
And then, didn't show up in Game 7, where if you heard that story before. That kind of shocked me a little bit in 2016-17 when they beat Montreal in the first round and then made it interesting with Ottawa. Ottawa, I actually think they should have won that series and at least gotten to the conference final. They probably would have lost to Pittsburgh, but they should have at least gotten to the conference finals that year.
Still fumes of the older teams.
Yeah.
It kind of says 2012 hurt more than 2015. I think, well, they did lose to the Devils, but even that 2012 team, like that team came out of nowhere too.
Yeah, I mean, they were one of the top 5 in the league, but when you look at years past, they were just kind of, middle of the pack. That 2012 team was really good because of Henrik Lundqvist. He won the Vezina that year. The team played, well enough defensively. I think their best offensive player that year was Gabrick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that it didn't hurt that much. I mean, I was happy with the season. I was happy we got to the conference finals.
I remember that year, like they went down 3-2 to Ottawa. They went down 3-2 to Washington. Like, it felt like when you were down 1-0, they weren't going to score.
No. Yeah,
like
exactly.
Like, it was over. Like, okay, we're done. Like,
I'm sure that
we're not ahead. We're not going to,
I'm sure that's how Henrik felt for most of his career as a Ranger. Like, I have to be perfect every single night because we're not scoring if I don't stop every puck thrown at me.
Yeah. So, pain, right? Earlier in the show, we talked about the potential of bringing back Patrick Kane. Where are you? Are you in on Kane? Out on Kane? Why not?
I think I'm out on Kane. I still got a sour taste in my mouth from last year. I think they should have I thought the Tarasenko move was great. I think they should have just stopped at that. I didn't think they needed to mess with the chemistry. I kind of like the way the roster was before they got Kane. People will point out that he had a lot of points in the playoffs. Okay. And he's coming off a tough surgery. At the same one that Nicholas Backstrom had. And Backstrom, I don't know if you guys saw today that he's he's stepping away from the team because he's still hurt and he doesn't know when he's going to return. So that would alarm me a little bit. I don't know. I don't think he, you had posed the question like, Tarasenko or Kane. I'd rather get Tarasenko back.
Well, the only thing, I've been an unabashed fan of Vladimir Tarasenko since he should have been a Ranger in the 2010 draft. And the fact that St. Louis got Schwartz and him in that draft makes me sick. But the difference between the two is Kane just costs you cap. When you're talking about Vlad, you're probably giving Ottawa an asset.
Yep.
And you're probably giving an intermediary an asset because he's making 5.5. And I don't think you can fit half of 5.5. So you could fit a quarter of 5.5. But now again, we're in that bribing cycle. It's tough, right?
I mean, I guess with Kane, like I'd want like a full medical evaluation.
Oh yeah, I think
because if they say that he's like fully healthy, then that's something different. You get Patrick Kane fully healthy, you put him on this roster. That made me things pretty interesting.
Oh no,
it could be very exciting to watch.
But I think, like I said, I think he kind of doesn't want to keep changing teams around. I think like he's comfortable here. He knows the experience here. He knows the team. That would be an easy I'm back type of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I go back to, look, last year, nobody, that playoffs was just a disaster, but you know, he was not the problem last year.
He was not the problem.
No, when I went through my end of season venting, therapeutic, cathartic, I hate my team, I love my team type thing. Like I felt like it was very easy. It was very convenient to blame Kane and Tarasenko and the guys who were not going to be here this year, when really the problems were your top center and your top winger, because those were the two people that didn't do anything that really hurt, and that you couldn't get rid of those. Again, Bread's off to a great start. Hopefully that continues. Mika's starting to put the puck in the net again. Hopefully that continues. We need to not be paper tires in the playoffs, but you got to get there first. Again, Kane comes for free, and I think that there's something to be said about that. Like, even if you think Tarasenko is the better fit, and I love him, absolutely, he would slot right back in on the first line very easily, and that wouldn't even be a question. But what's it cost you?
Yeah, and then when you look at Kane, you know, he's looking at contenders. You know, right now at least we're a contender.
We are.
I mean, like you said, you know, he's comfortable here. And you know, who knows, you know, you know what, last year is last year. Maybe things will be different this time around. Maybe, you know, Laviolette will kind of get a better handle on him and get Kane accustomed quicker. Actually, you know, you maybe not even that, because Kane, like you said, he's got the experience now. He wouldn't have to be accustomed. It's a lot of the same guys.
But I think that Gallant just didn't know what to do with these pieces.
Well, clear, yeah.
I'm kind of just like I get angrier thinking about it, because like they should have won the whole damn thing last year if there was anybody behind the bench who could do any sort of tactical management. And like, it drives me nuts. I wanted Gallant originally, because I not having been on the day-to-day with him, like seeing did great with Florida, took Vegas to the final. He just gotten done taking a junior team from down to winning a gold medal. Like, okay, it's okay. And the first year was like, okay. But the problem is, when we're in it, we don't see it for what it is. And it was a miracle they got out of Pittsburgh. It was a miracle they got out of Carolina. And then it caught up to them.
Yes.
So like, we're not. Gallant might have been fired before the helmet throw had they lost to Pittsburgh in the first round.
Yeah, because I think the problem with Gallant is that he doesn't know how to make adjustments. Clearly.
I don't even know he knows what an adjustment is. Like he says, everybody plays the same system. That's a direct quote. The hell does that even mean? What do you do? Like, oh, go out there. Give me your best, guys. Give me your thank you. Thank God for you. Like, that's what we have you there for, right? So,
like, if he sees, you know, or if he were to see, you know, the other team change up their style of play, well, he wouldn't know what to do with the Rangers. He wouldn't be like, oh, all right, so now how do we change our tactics to match theirs? He wouldn't know. Laviolette would know exactly what to do.
Yeah.
Because like he knows structure, and he knows the style of play, and he knows what fits this roster. That's the key. Yeah. He knows what to do with the group of players that he's been given. So he's going to use the style that works for them.
I love it. Con is so awesome. Paul's comment: Kane was not honest about being injured. Everything's out in the open. It'd be different now because you know what he really has. Paul, I want to say, I think everybody knew that Kane was not coming in 100% Patrick Kane. That's why it didn't cost you anything in the grand scheme of things, right? Like, yeah, they wanted to bring it. You wanted to come here.
I think we all knew that he wasn't 100%. I think we
Everybody
were
knew
just
that. Yeah, I mean,
we were all excited that it was Patrick Kane and he was going to do great things with Panarin.
But he was coming here to be a complimentary piece, not a main piece.
Yes.
So it was fine. Like you're not getting prime Patrick Kane, right? You know this. You know, when back in the day when they went and got Yari Curry, like, no, it's not 1989 Yari Curry, but he plays with Messier. Like, it's, you know what you're buying, and everybody's like, oh, look what they gave up. What did they give up? A second round pick? Who the hell cares? Like, people get enamored with this stuff. It's like, it doesn't matter. So every GM in the world makes that trade twice. I don't think that anybody can blame Chris Drury for saying, hey, do you want Patrick Kane? He wants to come to you. You can make it work financially. You're going to say no? Probably not.
No, you hear the name, you know, he's got the experience.
Yeah.
He's won Stanley Cups.
Yeah. With an S.
Yes, and I think, you know, you bring him back as a complimentary piece.
Yeah.
And if he really is healthy, maybe he exceeds expectations and just, you know, he's not going to get back to the player that he once was, but he can still be productive and maybe, you know, take some of the pressure off.
Yeah.
Like if just say Kakko is still struggling to produce and Kane says, look, I really want to come back. That's when you have to say, you know what? Maybe this would be the best thing for Kakko. Maybe take a little pressure off him. We bring Kane in, and then, you know, Laviolette can kind of mix and match lines and see what works for everybody.
But that's kind of the chess match, right? It's now we're moving the pieces around. Like, and we talked about this in the start of the show.
Yeah, I think Laviolette would be better at moving the pieces around than Gallant would.
I would trust you and me, and I trust my son to move the pieces around better than I trust Gerard Gallant to do at this point. Like I don't.
It would take some work. But I mean, like you were saying, it can be, you know, it can easily be done. It's like you said, it's up to Kane. The ball's in his court. He's got to decide where he wants to go. Like you said, I don't think Buffalo is the right fit for him. That division's too tough. Buffalo isn't. They're exciting to watch. They're going to score a lot of goals. Their goaltending hasn't been that great.
But Buffalo could be a fit for him next year.
Yes,
like when he wants to go sign a 3-year deal.
Yes, Buffalo could be a good fit for him next year. Buffalo could be in a better position next year.
Yes,
and he could end his career at home with his family. That'd be a great way for him to go out. But if he wants to win a cup and he wants to do it now, the Rangers are one of the teams that are going to give him a chance to do that.
Let's assume let's work with what we have. Like, let's not rather the potential hypotheticals. When you look at this team, you look at the division that they're in, the teams around them. Where do you see them in the hierarchy? What are your realistic expectations?
You know, originally I had, for the top 3 in the division, I had excuse me, I had Carolina, the Devils, and the Rangers, kind of the way they finished last year. I'm starting to question. I actually wrote a piece on this recently. The Devils do not have good goaltending. That's a problem. I honestly thought that because, you know, during the offseason, there were rumors that they were going to try and go get Connor Hellebuck. I was like, you know, if they go and get him, that is a complete game changer. That may give them the top spot, you know, maybe not only in the Metro, but in the East. Because that's a world-class goalie. Devils haven't had a world-class goalie since
Marty,
yeah. Can't call Corey Schneider. I mean, Corey Schneider was good for a few years. That would have been a game changer. But Schmidt and Vanasek, those guys are not the answer. So, I mean, I could see the Rangers finishing first or second. Carolina hasn't been great to start off, but, you know, Rod Brindamore being the coach that he is, Carolina is extremely deep. I still see Carolina winning the division. Second and third is going to be a battle between the Rangers and Devils, just like it was last year.
I hate that I love everything Carolina does. Like, I just look at their roster and I'm just like, that's a very, very good team. The Devils, to me, and again, it's going to sound like sour grapes, and it's really not. The Devils are a great regular season style of hockey team.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that they beat the Rangers last year. The Rangers lost. Okay. And as soon as they got past the Rangers, who did it to themselves, Carolina dispatched them in rather relatively easy fashion.
Yeah.
Like they were not ready for prime time, and they're not really built to be. When the game changed in the playoffs, when the ice gets tighter, they're not really built for that. They'll run and gun with you, but I think that all of the speed they talk about, that doesn't play in April and May. And I think that if you're not built, and it's defense and it's goaltending, I don't like their defense that much.
Well, I mean, you look at what the Rangers did in games 1 and 2 to them.
I just want to
Devils tried to play fast.
I did pat myself on the back for this one. I did call them directly, so I wanted to. I did say, hey, by the way, in case these lines were on the show the other night, just in case. Like, thank you, Chris.
I mean, like, you look at games 1 and 2. Devils tried to play with speed, and Rangers created a lot of turnovers. Turnovers turned into offense. Pucks went in the net. Devils can't play that. You can't play that way in the playoffs. It's not going to work.
It's amazing. Like all these teams that we think are like, oh, look how many goals they can score. That's not playoff hockey. The game changes.
Look at Edmonton.
And everybody talks about, oh, the Rangers stink. I'm like, I go back to, we've seen significantly less talented Rangers teams do very well in the playoffs because of great goaltending, which we have again. We've seen this movie before. So the people that just want to the Rangers this, the Rangers that, like, I think that I'm trying to delete this comment because I can't stand people that just spam. It sounds like a cop-out. I said before the playoffs last year, look, they could win the whole damn thing or they could be swept. Like, there's no
in between.
Like, with them, like, literally anything can happen because the pieces were there. I do have a lot more confidence in this head coach, even through this little small sample size. Like, I feel as though if he was the coach in last year's series and they're up 2-0, and
they finished that. They finished that early.
Yeah, if they lose game 3, they win game 4. Like, they're not shell shocked. And I was at game 3.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think we were both at a game 3.
We were both at game 3.
Like, we're just like, and the Devils score that stupid goal because Igor gets in somebody's face because they're in this crease, and then Hughes scores, and then there's that. I'm a lot more bullish on this team's capability. Now, again, it is early. I'm not going to, but I think that the betting odds have changed. They're now tied with Carolina as the favorite to win the division because of their strong start. Again, could the Devils get a goalie? Yeah, maybe. But who? Like, who's John Gibson? Like, who are you going to bring in? And what's it going to cost you? I don't know. Like, I look at it, and again, Hellebuck not going there, I thought was massive. Like, I was very happy.
I mean, when I saw Winnipeg was able to sign both Scheifele and Hellebuck to massive deals, I'm like, well, that deal's going to keep Scheifele away from Boston because I know Boston was interested.
And the Rangers, thankfully.
Yeah, and then, when Hellebuck signed, saw that extension with Winnipeg, I said, well, the Devils, they missed their chance. I don't know if Fitzgerald just didn't give them a call to see what it would take. I mean, obviously, they probably have to give up a few good pieces. But I probably would to get a world-class goalie like him because you're going to have the offense. Devils have good offense, but their goaltending does not match it.
No.
And that's going to be a problem.
They can't defend very well. And that'll be their Achilles heel. Like I said, I think if the Rangers played the way they could have played, that series would have been over in 5 games. It was the Rangers that lost. It wasn't what the Devils were doing because Akira Schmid stinks. The Rangers made him look good. Like, they make all backups look good. Like, that's what we do. But
yeah, we've been doing that for years.
That's Ranger hockey. I know that you played goalie as a kid, so I'm gonna ask you the unanswerable question.
Yes.
Richter or Lundqvist?
Well,
as long as we'll be friends afterwards, even though I have to ask you. It's the impossible question. I understand that.
I'll say Richter will always be my favorite goalie. He will always be my favorite goalie. I mean, he did the one thing that Lundqvist did not do. And I'm not blaming that on Lundqvist because that was
Completely
not his fault.
Yes.
But Richter won the cup.
Sure.
And it would have been interesting if Richter had not gotten injured so much and played a little bit longer. Because I think he is someone who probably could have been in, who could be in the Hockey Hall of Fame. But it's funny, now, if I have to pick a goalie for a big game, I want Lundqvist then. You really can't go wrong with either.
No, it's a good problem.
But you look at Lundqvist in like elimination games and game sevens, Mike, he's like perfect. Just Richter will always have a soft spot for me.
Sure.
It's just how he taught me how to stop penalty shots.
It's personal. Look, my favorite player
that Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
The one thing that Lundqvist did not bring to us.
My favorite player of all time is Adam Graves. Is Adam Graves the most talented player in the world? No. But it's just I grew up. My
dad loved Adam Graves. Adam Graves was unbelievable.
I wore number 9 growing up because of Adam Graves, and it's just
he was the perfect Ranger.
Yeah, and that's I got a chance to meet him too. Ironically, it was during that Ottawa series. They did that stuff. They did like the garden party outside. I was going to take a picture with him, get his autograph. Like I was just ear to ear. Am I going to take him or who? I don't even know who the equivalent would be, but look, Mika Zibanejad is a much more talented player.
Yeah.
So it's okay to say that. Like it's not a shot against Adam Graves,
Yeah, I think Lundqvist, is the more talented goalie.
Yes.
But that's just based on when Lundqvist started playing, there are more advancements in the game. I thought it's funny. I think Richter was a little bit more athletic. That's who Jonathan Quick models his game after.
Kevin's got an interesting point here. I guess from a standpoint of that fearless net front.
Yeah, power play.
I could see it. Yeah, I could see it. Look, Foxy's Leech. That we know. That's pretty easy correlation.
Yeah,
But,
what Fox has done in the very short time span has been unbelievable. I don't know. I knew he was good, but I didn't see this.
No.
I don't think anybody. He's tied with Quinn Hughes right now for league lead among defensemen in points.
If I go back to that draft, I know he was a 3rd-round pick for Calgary because why would we take him, right? In the 2016 draft, he's got to be a top 3 pick, right? Austin Matthews went 1, Patrick Laine went 2, Dubois, Puljujärvi, Matt Tkachuk was 6, Clayton Keller was 7, McAvoy went in that draft, Tage Thompson went in that draft. Actually, Ryan Lindgren went 49 to Boston. Yeah, Foxy went 66 to Calgary.
And he did everything he could to get away from them to come, from them. And I think, what was it then Carolina?
Yeah.
He got away from just to come here.
Yep. He wanted to be here.
And I don't think he wants. You can never say never, but I don't think he wants to play anywhere else. This is where this is where he's from.
You just look back at it and actually, what was the Rangers draft that year? Did they even have a pick that year? Because
I do remember 2016 being the year the Rangers traded Brassard for Zibanejad.
That was we talk about the all-time, great picks. So the Rangers' first pick that year, trivia, is Sean Day, 81st overall.
Who?
Sean Day. Nobody. Listen. If you want to laugh and cry, just go look at Ranger draft history.
Is he even playing? Where is he even? Is he even playing?
He made it somewhere, but it wasn't. I think he's in Tampa's system somewhere. It's bad. It's not good. So I don't really get as mad when they trade draft picks because they can't even get them to work anyway. Neither here nor there. Who? That's the best. Listen, been a blast having you on.
Been great.
I'm sure I'll see you in section 115, row 22, which is the best spot in the garden. I love that. Tell BlueTruth fans where they can find your blog. And again, as I told you, as I see some Ranger stuff, I will continue to spread the good word to Ranger fans. But where can Ranger fans find your work?
You can just go to InsideTheRink.com, search for Patrick Hoffman. I do some Rangers articles. I also just write, general NHL columns as well. I do a lot of goalie stuff. Do a lot of email interviews. So I have a whole bunch of different things that I write about. Because I think the site has 2 other Ranger guys, so I try not to, write over them. And I think they were there before I was, so I try not to write over them.
Good stuff. Well, listen, Patrick, thank you for the time. Thank you for coming on. I'm sure our fans, everybody appreciated it. Again, good Rangers coverage. I'm sure you're checking out Pat's blogs. When I see them with the business of life, I do my best to, share them as well. And then I'm sure we'll have Patrick on again throughout the year, as hopefully there's a lot more to talk about outside of a really, really blistering start. There's nothing to be upset about. It's all smiles right now.
That's right.
Right now, it's all smiles.
Right now, yeah. I mean, that could change in a month.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right, brother. Good talking to you.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Okay. Patrick Hoffman from Inside the Rink, good friend of mine, sits in my section. We have a lot of good, Ranger talk together. I was happy to have him on tonight. And again, check out the blog. He really does a lot of good work from that standpoint. So, that's all we have for tonight. Again, if they look like crap tomorrow night against Carolina, don't freak out. It's the first game back after a trip. I know it's Carolina. I get it. But again, it's okay. We'll be fine. It's a regular season. They've just won 7 games. Guess what? If they lose tomorrow, they're still in first place. It's okay. It's okay. Next show, probably looking sometime mid-late November. I like to, in my mind, kind of do shows roughly every 10 games or so. Because I think that, again, I try not to overreact to anything. But I think that at least when you get 10 to 15 game divisions in the series, you can kind of analyze, okay, what are we doing now? So I would probably say we're looking at sometime mid to late November, probably around Thanksgiving, maybe after. We'll see how things go. But thank you all to who watched the show. Thank you all for your interactions. Again, that's what makes it fun. I love hearing all your comments, interacting with you guys, talking about the topic that we love the most, and that's Ranger hockey. Again, great start. It is just that. It is just the start. So, you can't ask for more. Again, if you're watching, please give us a like. Definitely helps. They've played well. Okay. I mean, if I told you a month ago that they'd be 7-2, all of you would take it and none of you would complain. They'd be like, that's awesome. Where do I sign? And that's what they've given you. Again, the first time in the history of the almost 100-year history of the Rangers that they swept a 5-game road trip. Never has happened. Never has happened until now. So you do have to feel good for sure. Yes, Kurt, it is the classic letdown game, and that is what I am mentally preparing myself for. It's going to be okay. Carolina's a really good team. It's okay. It's fine. Just play well. Don't get blown out of the building. You find a way to win tomorrow. Okay. Now, I mean, again, it's still game 10 of the season. So you can't do it. PJ, let's go. Chris, enjoyed the insert Patrick and the down in front references. Let's go Rangers. Yeah. I got to tell you, that was one of my favorite things. His dad would yell, sit down. And it's just, I can hear it in my head. And I miss him. I miss him a lot. I enjoyed speaking to him a game so much. His insight and him being a fan for as long as he was, the things he saw, I really, he is very missed. He is very missed. Yes, kind of that Blue Shirt Underground is doing a viewing party. I forget exactly what day, but I do intend to be there. It's on a weekend. BlueTruth will share that information because we love Jim and Eddie. So we'll make sure people know about that. It's a lot of fun. They do again, between Blue Shirt Underground, Two Guys, One Cup, Sean McCaffrey's got a book coming out or just came out. There's a lot of great Ranger content out there to, keep us through. MSG Networks do a very good job of doing any of that. So unless Carolina wins 7-1, then we trade. Everybody's gone. Well, Anyway, thank you all for watching the show tonight. We appreciate that. Keep your eyes out on the BlueTruth page. We'll be still breaking news and everything there. On behalf of Patrick, who is our guest, thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon. Hopefully we can get another win tomorrow night, because I'm greedy and I want to win more games. Let's go Rangers.